Hi everyone, my name is Mariah Domenech and I'm here to present my systematic data collection, so let's begin. My research question for this was, does repeated reading instruction improve the reading expressiveness of elementary age struggling readers? Um, the students that I used were part of an after-school program were all struggling readers. Expressiveness is how a person uses their intonation and pausing to get across the meaning of whatever text they're orally reading. This is something that can really only be measured when somebody is reading out loud. Um, Oral reading, prosody, or expressiveness, those two words are pretty much the same thing. I'll probably use them interchangeably, so I'll just let you guys know that now. It's been associated with comprehension of text, so depending on how well a child is able to, express meaning from the text, it's been shown to connect on how much of the text they're actually understanding. Um, and expressiveness is also how you signify, the end of a sentence or any kind of punctuation. Um, Whenever you're reading a question, you have a slight lilt at the end of the question to signify that you're asking a question. So what I was measuring with this was seeing how well my students were able to do that. The repeated reading strategy is a reading and fluency instruction that has the students reading and rereading the same text multiple times until they have some kind of fluency when they're reading it, meaning they become comfortable with the text, with the words that they're reading, or as close to that as possible. So with this, I used four different read-throughs. The first read-through was a teacher read aloud. The second read-through was a echo reading. The third read-through was a choral reading, and the fourth read-through was partner reading. So I'm trying to see how that may affect the expressiveness or prosody of my students. I worked with 7 students. They were all 4th and 5th grade students in the after-school program. The reading passage that I chose for them was on reading level, or on the reading level they were supposed to be on in their grade, and it was a nonfiction science text. I took observational notes of their engagement throughout the lessons, especially during partner reading, choral reading, and echo reading. I did student surveys at the end of this, after the second assessment. Um, I took attendance to try. I wanted to see if that somehow affected how much the students may have improved or not improved at all. And I also used the comprehensive oral reading fluency scale, which was a scale that was created by Benjamin and other researchers in order to rate the expressiveness of readers. So on this page, I just made a copy of the specific part of the course that I used. It's for the expression ratings. So you have the intonation rating ranging from a 1 to a 4, and then the pausing rating ranging from a 1 to a 4. 1 is the lowest the student can be. 4 is the highest. 1 with intonation is where they're reading flat. There's no expression. They don't mark when they're at the end of the sentence, so they kind of read like this a run-on sentence throughout the entire text. A 4 is when they make noticeable pitch variations. They signify the end of a sentence, and only a few errors may exist, like very minimal amount of errors. For pausing, a 1 would be the reading is broken and it's really difficult for them to get through the reading, and they read in groups of 1 or 2 words without pausing. So like they would only read 1 word and then pause for a lengthy amount of time, or 1 to 2 words, or 2 words and pause for a lengthy amount of time. And the 4, the pauses would be more brief in between the words. There wouldn't be a lengthy pause unless it's between 2 sentences. And once again, unexpected pausing or lengthier pausing only occurs once per sentence on average. So this is the scale that I use to assess my students' expressiveness while they're reading the nonfiction science text. these are my results. I figured out the mean, standard deviation, mode, median, and range for the first assessment, the second assessment, and then I looked at the differences in mean and standard deviation between the first and second assessments. And what I found was that there was about a 0.4 point increase between the intonation rating, the pausing rating, for between the first and second assessments, which, considering the fact that it's only between a 1 and a 4, that's a pretty good increase for all of my students. And for the total expression rating, which is just the intonation rating, the pausing rating added together, it was 0.86 of an increase, which was also really good. I mean, that was really close to 1 whole point, which is amazing. I took observational notes while my students are reading because I kind of wanted to get an idea of when they were being most engaged with the lessons and the readings. And I found that they were more engaged during choral and partner reading. During choral reading, I think it was because they had more responsibility to read. They're reading with me during a choral reading. They're not sitting there and waiting for me to read. And with partner reading, they seem more relaxed because they would be reading with one other person and would be more comfortable with reading and trying to decode words that they may not understood, that they would probably feel less comfortable trying to do with me hovering over them and feeling that kind of pressure on them. But I did see more behavioral and intentional problems during read-alouds and echo readings. And I think this was more due to the fact because during those times I was doing most of the reading and they were sitting there having to listen. So I'll have to take that into consideration later. With the attendance, I found that the mean attendance, or the days of instruction that they received, was 12.78, so about 13 days. And it really seemed like they all got about the same amount of instructional days. So I'm not really sure if that really affected how much they learned or how much that affected their expressiveness scores with the course. I also did a survey to try to get an idea of what reading strategies they may have liked. On the left, you'll see an example of the survey that I did. And on the right, you'll see the averages for questions 1, 2, 3, and 5. I got really low ratings, so I take it that the kids didn't really like the read aloud, the echo reading, and the choral reading. But for questions 4, 6, 7, and 8, they seemed to like the partner reading a lot and then found the choral reading and echo reading beneficial. So it was really interesting being able to see which activities they liked and which activities they didn't like, but which ones they found beneficial and which ones they didn't find beneficial. So my reflections after doing this was that I should probably have a larger sample size when doing research like this. I think it would kind of validate my research a little bit more. Consistency is key. It was a little tough staying consistent with my observational notes. It's tough sometimes staying consistent with trying to read through all of the text as many times as possible, especially when I want to have my students to be able to finish reading the text before moving on to the next thing. So it was really hard at times staying consistent, so that's definitely something I need to work on. Doing the student survey helped me realize, again, the things they found beneficial, but also what they may not have liked about it, so I can kind of adjust my lessons based on the information the kids gave me, and hopefully maybe that will lead to their expressiveness being affected as well. Also, rating oral reading is a bit subjective. Since I'm just listening to them and I'm listening to their recordings, I didn't have anybody else scoring them, so it was just data that I did by myself, or I collected by myself. So maybe in the future I could try to have another person rating as well, and then try to compare our ratings and see what they look like to get it, to make sure that the data is more accurate. And that is it. Thank you so much.